Jim Carroll, Ralph Baber, psychology takeaway. You need a dose of the real. Life's absurd. We know the deal. Did you hear? Don't let it get you down. Turn that frown. Upside down, down, upside.
Well, normally we would have Ralph sitting here, and I would introduce him, say, "This is Jim," and he would say, "This is Ralph," but he's not here today. Ralph hurt himself. He fell and broke his hip, and he's now in the hospital. You know, some people will do anything for attention, right,
I
Sheila?
know, it's true.
Yep. My guest today is Sheila Carroll, a relation of mine. And we're going to talk about a favorite subject of both she and Ralph, and that is nature, the psychological, easy for me to say, psychological nature of nature.
Okay, that's a good one.
Welcome, Sheila.
The nature of nature. I like that. So what are
Now,
we talking about today?
I think we're going to talk about nature.
Specifically.
Yeah. Well, how does nature help you? How can we use nature therapeutically? I mean, we think it's a good thing, you know, to get out and walk around in the beautiful green grass that we have here at CMU, you know, or get out into a forest up north, and, you know, Algonquin Park. But so what?
So what? Well, the so what is in order for us to have our nervous system calm enough to think clearly. Yeah, exactly. To be able to remember things more clearly, have better health. All of these things are pretty well documented now, and a lot of research shows that nature is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, I suppose for a long time, nature has been used as a therapeutic medium. In fact, around the world, we have many examples, you know, of this, right?
We do. And starting even, just to mention that when I was a child, my parents gave me two gifts. You know, everybody has complicated relationships with their parents, but they gave me two gifts. One was books. I had free run of the library. And the other was the outdoors. In fact, they kicked us outdoors quite a lot, all six of us.
Mm-hmm.
But the point here is that from an early age, I learned to go outdoors, and then just when I sensed that I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And
My parents used to kick me out, too. They'd say, "Go blow the stink off."
Yeah.
And I'd come back and, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, why is the door locked?"
Oh, come on. Your parents were adorable. So my point in bringing up how it was when I was a kid is that as you then set a pattern for your life in which you recognize that you're better when you're in nature. Mm-hmm. Today, we don't have that so much. There are lots of parents to get outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
but there are also a lot that don't.
Yep. We've talked about that. Now, Ralph and I used to be able to go out our front door, and within 5 minutes we'd be in the bush.
Yeah.
But now you got to get in your car
Yeah.
to get to the bush, and then what do you have to do? You have to leave the car with the nice air conditioning and the great entertainment system, and go out into the wilderness where there's nothing except bears that are going to eat you.
And hopefully there aren't mosquitoes.
Yeah. Good luck with that one, right?
Yeah, especially in Michigan.
Yeah. Ralph often tells the story of him taking a group of teenagers into wild northern Ontario and seeing the effect of the calming of their nervous system, you know, over time, within about a week or so. But you have a similar story, don't you?
I do, and it's one you and I shared. We both love the Keweenaw Peninsula, and if our listeners, if they can ever get up there, it's quite memorable. When you speak about the Upper Peninsula, it's one thing, but the Keweenaw Peninsula is an altogether different thing, even though they're attached. And while we were up there, we were always trying to see the local wonders, and one of them was Montreal Falls. Now, we hadn't gone for quite a while because it was at such a distance.
Yeah, you had to walk in. You could drive for a while, then you had to walk in 4 or 5 miles in the woods, right?
Yeah. And I remember the day we weren't even sure we were finding it in the car. And then we finally saw some other cars parked along the side of the road. Okay, I think we got it. And so we got out and we walked and we walked and we walked. And just a narrow track trail over rough ground. And we're thinking, okay, this is going to be really remote.
Yeah, we're in the wilderness. There's nobody here.
Nobody here.
If we meet the bear, it's going to take them weeks to find our bodies, right?
Yeah. And I just recalled that it was also uphill.
Yes. Well, only uphill in one direction.
Yeah, only in one direction. So as we were going along this trail and going uphill and huffing and puffing, we finally get to the rise in the hill. And just over the rise is this lovely kind of mountain meadow, if you will.
Yep.
And seated all over on the hillside were teenagers,
Kids.
kids.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't rock formations, were they?
No, and they all were, you could see they were deeply absorbed in their writing and or their journals, I
Their
guess,
sketching.
as we later
Yeah.
learned. Yeah. And we just couldn't believe it. We just stared. And then we saw what looked like an instructor or someone in charge, and we walked over and asked what they were doing. And he explained to us that these were all inner city kids. Tell the rest of the story.
Well, the kids came up to Michigan Tech, which is the nearby university, for a summer program, and part of that summer program was writing and nature study of various kinds, and they all brought their equipment with them. Their headphones, their phones, just all of their electronics.
And they were all,
Yeah, and so the first thing they did, kind of like with Ralph's story, is they took the electronics away from the kids, and they went into deep withdrawal for about a day or two, and they said, "Okay, we're going to go now out into the wilderness, where the bears are and the snakes are," and they freaked out at that. I mean, think of it; these kids are from the inner city. What's more dangerous, a bear or a snake in the UP, or walking down a major?
true story.
Won't even go there, but. So they took them out. They found their way to Montreal Falls, yakking and laughing, and goofing around all the way, slapping trees, and hey, what's going on? That kind of thing. That was a week before we saw them, and in that week, something magical had happened.
Yes.
Actually, it's not magical; it's psychological and neurological happened.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the story. They calmed down, and they were able to focus on the world around them. They were able to notice things.
Yes.
Before it was just everything is freaking out. So.
And I went over and sat next to a couple of the kids.
Did they even know that you were there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did chat with them just a bit, like, what do you think? I mean, even their answers were calmer and more thoughtful.
I mean, they use more than 2 or 3 words at a time? Okay.
Or yeah, like that.
Yeah. So we saw, Ralph has seen it firsthand. We've seen it firsthand, the effect that nature can have. And, we often talk here about education, but can schools institute something like this? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
I've been looking around at some material. In fact, Sheila sent me a whole big thing of
My notes.
so nature and the early history of psychiatry. Okay. Now, if you want to get a copy of this, you can just send me an email, and I will send you a PDF of it. That's carojl at cmich.edu. Okay, here's the...
It'll be in your notes, right?
Right. Okay. That, Sheila, is what happens here quite frequently. I pushed the wrong button.
That's okay. You see, when you're, for example, we're in a very high-tech environment here.
Yeah.
And if we were here all day, we would begin to exhibit neurological symptoms.
Oh, kind of like our technicians here?
Oh, they seem to get outdoors enough.
At least
Right.
out of the studio, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But think about our children. They're growing up in front of screens. And we already know the blue screens and how the flicker affects their neurological wiring. And so children are more anxious, children are more angry and acting out. These same kids we were telling the story of, it's a good parable, really. They started out pretty,
Wired and
rowdy and misbehaving. They came to this camp because they had problems, not because they were well behaved and deserved it. and then the results were remarkable. And I think that story alone demonstrates the principle that we need the outdoors. I mean, you think about it this way. We are made of exactly the same material as the outdoors.
yeah. I know you think I resemble a tree sometimes.
No, I'm talking about the minerals and all the components of our body. And if we are not in relationship with nature, then that doesn't get restored. That doesn't get rebuilt. And we are organisms in the same way. I mean, this is so fundamental, and yet we act as if it isn't true. That we are organisms just like a tree or a plant. We are a thinking organism.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. But the point here is that it is essential. It is not just a nice thing to do, it's essential.
And some people in some countries have actually signed on to this essentiality.
They have.
Can you tell me about the forest schools? We'll give you couple of examples, but that one fascinates me.
Yeah, now Scandinavia started, and I guess Japan has picked it up. But the idea is it's called forest bathing. And when I first saw that term, I thought, are we talking about nude bathing in among the trees?
Sounds like it.
It does, doesn't it? but the concept there is the same as I'm saying, that the feeling that the trees give off, I'm sure that there's all kinds of chemistry involved, that, the pheromones that trees and plants and animals give off that we pick up and we're sensitive to but aren't aware of. All of that is considered therapeutic. In Scandinavian, when I was much younger, I spent about 6 months in Sweden, and I was really struck with, first of all, their cities were very clinical, but you went out into
kind of sterile and
sterile.
Yeah.
But you went out into the country, and they still had that very strong connection to the land. You could see it everywhere. And people who lived in the city often went out into the countryside. Now, I don't know how it is now, but so they now have these different schools in which children are raised in a very much more natural environment. It's not that they have nature study in class. They are in a natural environment and learning.
Okay, interesting. We also see this in other places. A few months ago, we had a woman on, an artist, and she was talking about her art display, and we put some images. And it was here at the university. It was called, 89 Ways to Get Committed to an Insane Asylum, or something like that.
It was
Yeah.
hard to watch and pretty remarkable.
One of the things she introduced us to, Ralph and I, and Alex was here, was the, I don't know what you call it, I guess the Humane Natural Asylum.
Yes.
And we talked about various kinds of asylums, and we just happened to have an example of one here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Is it Kirkwood?
No, it's Traverse City Institution for the Insane is the awful name it used to have, but it's based on something called the Kirkwood model.
That's, yeah. And there are several of these around the country. She
Yes.
said that she'd gone out and visited many of them, but
Yeah.
do you know enough to talk about that one?
Well, I know enough, but it might be interesting to our listeners to know how I even found out about it.
Yeah.
So I was getting my hair cut, and this 20-something says, well, what are you going to do for fun today? I said, well, I'm going to go home and write. She said, oh, really? and I said, yeah. She said, well, what do you write about? I said, I write about nature. And that seemed to spark in her a memory that last weekend she had gone up to Traverse City and gone in to see this, which is now open to the public. It
Yeah.
has a restaurant and
Yeah, it's kind of a mall.
a spa.
Spa,
Yeah. but they still have aspects of the asylum that are still open to the public. And she was talking about how she learned that they use nature at this asylum. Now, I don't know about the rest of our listeners, but my association with the word asylums is not good.
Okay. Yeah. You're thinking of somebody kind of like this?
Yes,
Yeah.
straitjackets. And by the way, in the one that we're speaking of up in Traverse City, Michigan, the straitjacket was forbidden. I did learn that.
Okay.
And I was quite fascinated that the original founder, and you can find that in the notes, but the original founder, his approach to therapy was that beauty is health. To think about that. Not nature is health, not nature is healing, but beauty is health. And to surround the individuals with beauty. And beauty is found in the natural world.
That's why art therapy and music therapy are actually work, but they're not used very much.
No, and they should be. It's considered fluff, extra.
Yeah.
Let's do the real stuff.
Let's do the real thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mother, Sheila.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But this man's approach was quite different. And it's more than just lots of trees around that they could walk in. They definitely had that. And these trees are now quite large trees. And what they have, what they made available was, for example, they had a garden that the patients could work in. They could even have their own small garden to keep. That alone would be remarkable. But then they had all kinds of other things related to the outdoors. There were always flowers, and the flowers were grown on the property. They had, as this system or this method grew, they had a farm with cows and chickens and pigs and goats, and all of that organic, natural food was fed to the patients.
So this was not a form of slavery, making the patients go out and work. That's actually part of the therapy.
Right. Well, people need to have meaningful work. It's part of the reason why you get sick.
That you don't have, well, Viktor Frankl talked about meaning in one's life, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's one of my heroes.
You mean it's not me?
Well, you're my hero too, dear.
Okay, thank you. We're talking to Sheila Carroll, and she just happens to be related to me by marriage. I'm not going to say she's my wife. It sounds too misogynic.
Oh, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Sheila, you mentioned writing. I think you brought a couple of examples of good writing didn't you?
I did.
Including something from the King of England.
Yes. So
You want to bring King?
should I do that first?
Do the King first.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
now I'm going to get you over to here again. There it is.
So it might be interesting for folks to know that I'm an educator. I developed a curriculum along with Jim that has a strong nature study component, and that's really where I began. Over 20 years ago, and over the years, I've grown in my appreciation not only for nature study but the need for nature. So I started something called Nature Study Notes. It's a Substack. And I just love it. I can hardly wait to do it every week.
You certainly do love it.
I know he gets a little frustrated with me.
Where is Sheila?
Are you coming? So all of that has to do with this. So as I look around, who else is seeing nature as not just good for health, but good for the planet, good for people, good for communities? Lo and behold, we have the now King of England, King Charles, now his Prince of Wales when he first did this book. And what he saw, when he had this lifelong interest, he's been doing this for over 50 years, and he has created these remarkable places around England and elsewhere in the world in which he studied the indigenous people, the local customs that led to human flourishing. That's what he called it.
Human flourishing.
Flourishing. Now, if you think about this, we're circling back around to why nature is good for us. What he discovered is that humans flourish when they are in the natural world. And so he began to really develop this idea that when we are in balance with the natural world, not living in sterile cities,
Yes.
then we are in harmony, which is why he calls his way of thinking, his his vision is called harmony.
Oh.
But it's quite more elaborate than I'm putting it simply, but it's quite elaborate. So he wrote this book, I would say 15 years ago. There is now a movie called Harmony. It can be found. We got it on...
YouTube, right?
Was it YouTube?
Or Netflix.
Okay, it was either Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Okay.
But you can find it.
It's called Harmony?
It's easy to find. It's well worth watching because it explains his philosophy, and it's like, why aren't we doing more of what he's talking about? So I just wanted to share that with you, and I just thought it was so remarkable.
Okay, in the couple of minutes we have left, you've done a couple of things too, right?
Thank you. So I began now putting things together that would help parents to be able to use nature. And one of the things, interestingly enough, is nature poems. And you would think, well, don't you mean you want to just get outdoors? Actually, no, it widens our senses. Poetry does this, and well-written nonfiction and sometimes fiction about nature. But this particular, I put it together, and it's by topic. So it would be clouds or rainy days or the bugs or the full moon. And these are all classic poems. And my parents just love it. So I wanted to mention that. And then the other is something that I wrote. I wrote the book that I needed for me. We began homeschooling, 25 years ago.
I guess so. Our daughter just turned 34. I can't believe it.
I know. And
so we started her when she was about five.
Right.
5.
And we were using what is known as the Charlotte Mason approach.
Living books education. Right.
And ours was living books education, using literature and language. And one of the components of this is the natural world. But the nature study that was recommended seemed a little flat to me. It didn't help me know how to do it better. And so years went by and I developed these different methods. And finally, I just wrote a book, the book that I wanted when I started homeschooling. Yep. And it's called Nature Study Companion. It's got all kinds of things in it, like, 10-minute nature walks.
Okay. And these are things that you can do if you're in the city also, right?
Yes,
you can find
absolutely.
natural places if you look around.
In fact, there's a whole chapter on urban nature study. So, yeah.
So the bottom line here is nature is good for you.
Nature is good for you.
It's good for your mental health and your physical health and emotional
health.
Yeah, mental health.
Oh, they're not the same.
We'll have this debate later. Hey, it was a pleasure having you here today, Sheila. We both miss Ralph, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. And so we say, Ralpho, get better.
Get well soon.
Yeah. We'll have you back in the chair pretty soon.
Sounds good.
Okay. But let's see, where am I going here now? Right here. Well, until next time, this is Jim.
And Sheila.
Saying, can you do this, Sheila?
I think so.
Okay. Keep your stick on the ice, because we're all in this
together.